Initially, yesterday's CNN reports that 4 people, none of whom were in the meeting, said that Bernie Sanders had a meeting with Elizabeth Warren last year where he said that a woman could not win the presidential election, which is an interesting stance for him to take considering he has worked to help women beat Donald Trump as Hillary Clinton did by 3 million votes. So anyway, in response to that story, Bernie Sanders initially responded before Warren did. He said, "It's ludicrous to believe that at the same meeting where Elizabeth Warren told me she was going to run for president, I would tell her that a woman couldn't win. What I did say that night was that Donald Trump is a sexist, a racist, and a liar who would weaponize whatever he could." And so following that, we waited to see, would Elizabeth Warren weigh in? Would she confirm or deny the account? And indeed, she did. I'm not gonna read her entire statement, but she did say this, you can take a look at it. Among the topics that came up was what would happen if Democrats nominate a female candidate. I thought a woman could win. He disagreed. I have no interest in discussing this private meeting any further because Bernie and I have far more in common than our differences on punditry. So we now have a response. Emma, what do you think about Warren's statement?
Well, she has no interest in discussing it further because it helps her and she's falling in the polls and he's surging in the polls. I'm super bummed about this entire thing, as you can probably tell. I have no doubt that there's a kernel of truth in her statement. I doubt she would come up with this out of whole cloth. I don't think she's Machiavellian in that way. But I'm sure the context was, how horrible is it that a woman might have a harder time becoming president because this country is so sexist, la-di-da. She chose not to put any of that context in her response because again, it helps her politically while throwing her friend of many years under the bus. So what I would have thought would have been an appropriate response, even if her memory tells her that he actually said that and she doesn't want to deny the report entirely, she could say, this CNN report was based on 4 people, or came from 4 sources who were not in the meeting. It was just Bernie and myself. The context of the conversation was entirely left out. Bernie Sanders has been a fighter for women for decades and decades in the House and the Senate and as a presidential candidate. So I would like to put this behind me, but instead she merely kind of did a drive-by where she confirmed the report and said, "I don't want to discuss it further," which is when I'm behaving more petulantly in like a fight with my boyfriend. That's what I'll do. But that's it's not a good way to be. It's not mature.
And it also, like, even if it was totally honest, it's like, I don't want to discuss it further. Case closed. The debate's tomorrow. It's not case closed. You don't get to make it case closed, even if that's what you wanted. And we can sincerely doubt whether that's what you actually want. I want to add on one other bit of new reporting. The Washington Post had an article about this, and they said 2 people with knowledge of the conversation at the 2018 dinner at Warren's home told the Washington Post that Warren brought up the issue by asking Sanders whether he believed a woman could win. One of the people with knowledge of the conversation said Sanders did not say a woman couldn't win, but rather that Trump would use nefarious tactics against the Democratic nominee. Now, look, I honestly, that a person with knowledge of in no case does that really mean anything. It means they talked to Bernie or they talked to Warren. They weren't there. But my stance before Warren's statement and after it is, I simply do not believe that she said, yeah, I'm gonna run. I think a woman could win, and he said, no, that's dumb. A woman couldn't win. There's no way that's what he said. He obviously said Trump will attack a woman. I mean, he was already attacking Warren in a particularly weird, misogynistic, and racist fashion. And the thing about this topic that's so weird is him acknowledging that a woman has a harder path because of how inherently sexist American society is and always has been. Everybody has to attack that because the implication seems to then be, well, in that case, let's not nominate a woman because it'll be harder for them to win. Even though those same people will then turn around and say, yeah, Trump is running an obviously misogynistic campaign in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, and we all know he'd do it again. Saying that a woman has a harder path is not saying we should not nominate a woman. That simply does not follow. But we do have to acknowledge that sexism is an inherent fact of America. It always has been, and for probably a long time it will be. And we have to acknowledge it if we're gonna fight against it.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, all reporting indicates that Bernie Sanders was pushing Elizabeth Warren to run in 2016 to challenge Hillary Clinton from the left. And when she said she wasn't going to do so, because reports indicate that Hillary Clinton had basically tried to neutralize Elizabeth Warren in a sense, and they had this pact beforehand where Warren was saying, "Oh, you just have to concede on these pro Wall Street appointments, appoint more progressives, et cetera." So because that agreement was in place, she chose not to run, as did pretty much everyone in the Democratic Party, because Hillary Clinton was seen as the shoo-in nominee. And Bernie Sanders said, "Okay, I'm going to do it then." So why would he be pushing her to run in 2016 against another woman if he really thought this was the case? Yeah. Now, I'm hearing rumblings behind the scenes from sources. That's a very adult journalistic thing to say.
You need to have 4 of them.
Right, that both campaigns really want to de-escalate. I would imagine Warren's campaign really does, because this looks like it's backfiring on her, at least online, although we're seeing The View and other mainstream outlets are just hammering Sanders over this. When, as you said, John, this is hearsay. This is a conversation between two people from over a year ago, where we know time manipulates conversations. How you interpret things doesn't mean it's necessarily the reality. When you have a fight with a friend or some sort of argument, it's always skewed in a specific way, or just a regular discussion, and time makes it even more obscure. Yeah. And so I just don't trust her characterization of this conversation, and the fact that it was passed off as reporting when it's gossip at best speaks very, very poorly of CNN's integrity in this instance, and the fact that it's just the #1 topic is depressing.
And opportunism for CNN, considering that they now have the stage at the debate. Thank you for watching this clip from the Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members-only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.